Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another SIGcast. This one involves the final stages of the 30 Years' War, Part 2. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Signature Gardens in Export, PA. Signature Gardens, a full-service garden center specializing in rare and unusual plant material. Colorful shrubs? You looking for that splash of spring color every year? How about summer or fall color? We have flowering shrubs that will put on a show in the spring, summer, or fall. Choose from beautiful flowers, colorful foliage, or interesting berries to color your world. For more information, visit signaturegardens.com. That's signature-gardens.com. Well, in the last episode, we had Wallenstein assassinated, live action footage. And if you remember, with him being assassinated, Ferdinand is on his own. We also saw Gustavus Adolphus, dead, killed in battle. Well, what happens next? I'll tell you what happens next. The Swedish phase turns into the Swedish-French phase. And this is the final stage of the 30 Years' War, the fourth one. Richelieu comes out clearly on the side of the Protestants, and not only supported the Swedes in the third phase, but in the final phase, France officially joins the conflict. They're all in, troops and all. So, again, recap. As you can see, this live action footage of the French going into war. The French overwhelmingly was Roman Catholic, as we know, as a rival of the Holy Roman Empire in Spain. This is a large part of France's history, the Valois versus Habsburg wars, and now we basically have a Bourbon versus Habsburg wars. And Cardinal Richelieu, who's the chief minister to King Louis XIII of France, felt that the Habsburgs had been tipping the scale of the balance of power too much in their favor. Since they held a number of territories on France's eastern border, including the Netherlands, France declared war on Spain in 1635 and the Holy Roman Empire in August of 1636, opening offensives against the Habsburgs in Germany as well as in the Low Countries. They swept down from Spanish Netherlands and attacked France in retaliation, did Spain. So it's on. And when the Spanish attack, France moves towards Spain, and French troops move into Catalonia and spread further devastation. So what we have is widespread fighting ensuing, with really neither side gaining an advantage. And by the year 1642, Cardinal Richelieu dies. A year later, Louis XIII dies, leaving his 5-year-old son, Louis XIV, to the throne. His chief minister, handpicked by Richelieu, was Cardinal Mazarin, and he was also facing, we've talked about him with his domestic crisis of the Fronde, beginning in 1645. He immediately began working to end the war, and the French and Swedes did have a few substantial victories along the way over the Spanish and imperial forces, and began to negotiate for a truce. Enough was enough. So peace talks begin in a place called Westphalia. This becomes a huge peace conference. It's unique, though, because in the Peace of Augsburg and other peace treaties that we've mentioned thus far, the Pope or the Church is heavily involved, and that's not the case here. The Pope doesn't even sign the treaties. They actually add Calvinism to the mix, and there is Lutheranism, Catholicism, and Calvinism, and also they finally, after 80 years, recognize an independent Netherlands. So this is signed on May 15th and October 24th, 1648, respectively, and ends the war. As I said earlier, this was a deadly conflict, the largest of its time up until the First World War. The deadly clashes ravaged Europe. 20% of the population of Germany died during the conflict, and there's losses up to 50% in a corridor between Pomerania and the Black Forest. Anywhere between 3 and 7 million died in the 30 Years' War. Germany was physically destroyed. As you can see, some of these images are pretty graphic. One of the other results of the Peace of Westphalia and the ending of the 30 Years' War was that the Roman Empire, or the Holy Roman Empire, I should say, dissolves. States of Germany started to accumulate stronger individual rights at the expense of the weakening Holy Roman Emperor. Germany remained weak and divided. England, Holland, and France will really take up their lead in European trade culture, and politics up until this point, while Germany kind of plays second fiddle. Germany's separate states will hinder trade and progress for many, many years, and it will not fully unite, and we'll cover this, until 1870. So, significantly, the 30 Years' War marks the last of the major religious wars in mainland Europe. Aside from establishing fixed territorial boundaries for many of the countries involved in the ordeal, as far as the newer ones were created afterwards, the Peace of Westphalia changed the relationships of subjects to their rulers. In earlier times, people had tended to have overlapping political and religious loyalties. But after the Peace of Westphalia, it was agreed that the citizenry of a respective nation were subjected first and foremost to the laws and whims of their own respective government, rather than to those of neighboring powers, be they religious or secular. Germany will view the meddling and interference from Spain, Sweden, and France and think, get the heck out of here. We start to see a little bit of a rise, not in a modern sense, but a rise of nationalism, and the thought that, man, these other powers keep us down, keeping Germany from great. And Adolf Hitler will refer to himself about this foreign interference as a festering sore in his seminal work, Mein Kampf. So, while the war seemed seesawed back and forth for 30 years, the entrance of the centralized states of Sweden and France on the Protestant side were much too strong for the Catholics. In 1648, ambassadors from all participating nations were sent to Westphalia in Germany to negotiate the surrender of the Catholic side, as Spain had gone bankrupt. Sweden and France gained the most, taking land from the Catholic portions of the Holy Roman Empire as well as Spain. The Netherlands were also granted independence from Spain in 1648, and this is significant. You got to know that. Additionally, the German princes of the Holy Roman Empire could now choose any religion, including Calvinism, and were free of control from the Holy Roman Emperor. So the major impacts of this war, the most significant impact was the last of the religious wars in Europe, as the conflicts now focused on a new concept, the balance of power, even though we did see that play out in the 30 Years' War. From 1648 onward, nations joined conflicts in order to prevent one state from becoming too strong or dominant in Europe, as Spain had been during the early modern era. So again, balance of power. Peace talks now involved all members from all parties of the conflict. That is a trend that will continue, whether it's the Congress of Vienna, the Peace of Paris, etc., etc., all the way up until the Treaty of Versailles. The conflict showed once and for all that large centralized states, like France, like Sweden, with national taxes and all of these traits of the new monarchs that we've been talking about in armies, were far more superior than non-centralized states. And then Spain and the Holy Roman Empire would no longer be relevant powers in Europe, and what power they had left would disappear over the next 2 centuries. And then lastly, over a third of all German people in the Holy Roman Empire died in the wake of the destructive conflict. So pretty significant event in history. Hope you got something from it. And this is also going to be something that leads into the Enlightenment, because people are going to say, like, wow, this religious intolerance stuff is pretty dumb. Religious wars, not good. So we'll see that trend continue into the Enlightenment, and then not be done once and for all, but to be looked at in a totally different light. Thanks for listening. Good day.